Hi, and welcome back to the Space Summit. So this is the final panel discussion that we have this afternoon, and it's really looking at how certain areas of the space tech are helping companies to realize and industries to realize their new ideas and develop. And we have two people here from different areas of this service sector, let's say. Let me introduce them to you. So we have Dan Isaac, and his business development at Spire Global. And Spire Global actually, let's say they facilitate one of the largest constellations of satellites. So there's a huge amount of power up there. And we have Guillermo Valenzuela, who is CEO of IceTech Space. And IceTech Space, they create high-resolution thermal imagery, and they are able to provide that information to different stakeholders around the world. But let's get a little bit more insight into how both of these organizations operate. So I'm going to turn over to yourself. So Dan, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So Dan, perhaps if you could just give us a little bit of insight in terms of how Spire Global operates and how you are really helping companies to sort of develop their ideas and turn their ideas into reality, in the minimum amount of time and with the minimum amount of risk as well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me in this event. I'm really proud to be joining here. So Spire has developed one of the largest constellations of nanosatellites in the world, and we've done that by addressing very critical needs of various sectors in the maritime domain, aero domain, and weather. By launching these satellites, we're addressing the needs of multiple customers around the world, and we're using that capacity to also deliver what we call space services, which means we use that ability to deploy large space infrastructures in space. We use that capability to support other companies to come to the new industrial domain, which for us is space. Much in the same way as the maritime domain is another area of business, or the air. In the air, the airlines can operate as well. We see space as the new industrial domain of the future. And we want to bring those companies to space aboard our satellites, and we want to do it in a way that is easy to contract, easy to launch, easy to operate, so that the customer experience is as seamless as possible. And the other important factor is that the fact that the underlying technology is based on nanosatellite technology, we can deploy the business of our customers at scale and with global coverage. So addressing a global market for those customers.
Okay, and that's an interesting sort of vision for us. You're inviting people from business to step into this new environment. Give us an example, if you could. What kind, what's one of the businesses that has sort of stepped into that environment and is stepping on board your constellation of satellites?
Yeah, for example, the Internet of Things industry needs to provide services to its customers that go beyond the terrestrial coverage of mobile networks. So they need space in order to reach as many customers around the world as possible. And of course, they can leverage our infrastructure to reach customers beyond the coverage area of terrestrial networks. So that's one domain in which we're supporting our customers. Earth observation, of course, is another domain that has been growing over the last 20 years. But now it's going into another gear in terms of its capabilities. And of course, Earth observation or greenhouse gas monitoring is by nature a global domain that requires space in order to serve its customers. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing a lot of traction from those companies who want to say, look, I need new data, I need to deliver new services to my end users, and I need to do it at global scale. And those are the sweet spots are Internet of Things communications, remote sensing, monitoring of RF signals from space as well, navigation. Those are the sweet spots where space has a role to play.
Great. Okay, thanks. That's really nice, giving us a very clear idea and some nice concrete examples. Guillermo, if we could come to you, perhaps if you could just give us a background to exactly how IceTech is operating and how you're using, why, what it is that this thermal imagery actually does.
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be here. It's a great honor. Secondly, how are we operating? Well, since the beginning, we started the operations of the company very close to the market. We pretty soon realized that there was a lack of thermal imagery from space. And there's a lot of uses, a lot of different verticals in which this type of images can be used. Right now, there's just a couple of satellites flying there in thermal, both for NASA, and ESA, and all these governmental agencies. And so we, as an operator, we saw that we realized that there's a lack, and also we try to operate and try to bring this full service to our customers in a way that we are not only selling images, but we are also trying to add a value to those images at the same time. For instance, we have on board our satellites not only the telescope, but also an IoT system that is receiving signals from the Earth at the same time those images are taking. And that is allowing us to mix both information, both data into one in terms of layers, and offer full service to our customers in different verticals.
And what kind of customers are you handling? So who's actually buying this data from you, these images?
Yeah, there's a lot of different uses and use cases. Those images are pretty much related to climate change, because it's measuring basically water. You can manage a lot of water changes and also fire risk management. So it's pretty close related to climate change and sustainability and environment. But it also is related with money, because performing a right water management on your field, you can reduce costs at the end, and you can increase the yield, you can increase the productivity of the fields. So that's in terms of reasons in agriculture. But we are focusing as well in forest management. Right now, there's a lot of problems in countries such as Canada with wildfires. So with thermal imagery, you can at least know or be aware that something will happen, because with the right algorithms and the right data, you will get an image of what could happen. It's like a risk assessment of your own forest. So we are not trying to achieve all these different verticals, because with thermal imagery, you can also address, for instance, security and border control and things like that. But what we are trying to produce is high quality thermal images, and then these end users could just take that image and put it inside their systems as a new layer of information.
Okay, and if I can ask, because it sounds like, as you said, because of the algorithms and the depth of quality of the imagery that you're getting, if I understand you correctly, you could almost predict potential fires that could happen, wildfires. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's not exactly predict. What you could measure is the risk assessment of that fire. You will get a probability of happening. It's not like I'm a magician and I will predict that there will be a fire here. But we will know more about the potential risk of having a fire, and we can just send, for instance, some ground teams to address that risk and to assure that there's a potential risk or potential threats. And maybe send someone to clean up some specific fields or stuff like that, or at least be prepared.
Right, okay, so it's close. Okay, it's not prediction, but as you say, it's risk and modeling, which can be extremely helpful. Okay. If we come back to you, Dan, one thing I'd like to ask you is, obviously that's a huge expense, having this constellation of satellites. And one thing we know is that, with technology, the speed of updating it is really important. So, how do you maintain this constellation of satellites and make sure that, it's as high tech as possible? When it's all up there, perhaps you can tell us what the lifespan is of one of these satellites, or at least how they're, regenerated.
Sure. That's a very, very good question. So we operate a constellation of nanosatellites or CubeSats. And the good thing or bad thing about these types of satellites is that they have a limited lifespan. And also there's a lot of factors like the type of orbit in which they are and so on. But they don't have the lifespan of your traditional large-scale satellites also operating in LEO orbit or in higher orbits. They have a lifespan ranging from 3 to 5 years, depending on a lot of factors. So the good thing about that is that you need to continuously replenish those satellites that reach the end of their lifetime and need to be changed. And that allows you to upgrade that technology on a very frequent basis. It's like buying a new iPhone every 2 years, or a new Samsung phone. I don't want to promote one or the other, but it means that the technology has to be refreshed and upgraded on a very regular basis. So this need to continuously replenish the constellation allows us to also make significant improvements on the hardware side of things. But where we gain the most is really on the software upgrades to the satellites. We operate a constellation that is primarily software defined, which means we can achieve gradual upgrades in the performance of the constellation from a hardware point of view. But from a software point of view, we can achieve 10x upgrades in terms of the capability of the satellites to perform better on a yearly basis, and that is a game changer for this type of technology.
Okay, yeah, that's nice. And am I right? Did you call them cute satellites?
Right.
So just give us a very, what size are we talking about? Because it sounds very much like something in your hand. Is that right? I mean, these are tiny things.
That is correct. So the measure of a CubeSat is 10 by 10 by 10 centimeters. We operate CubeSats that are 3U or 3 times a 10 by 10 by 10 cube approximately. We also operate what we call 6U satellites, which is double the size of a 3U. But they're essentially the size of a large bottle of wine or a little bit double that. Yeah, they're not that small, but that's not important. What's important is that these CubeSat technology or nanosatellite technology has drastically changed since the last 10 years. They used to be things that you develop in a garage or in a university. Now these are very powerful machines. They pack a lot of punch in a small size, and that allows us to do many things that are very similar in capability to larger satellites, but with a kind of an underlying cost that can measure it with the size of the satellite. The smaller the satellite, the more you can launch, the lower the launch cost, and so on and so forth. So the economics of the cost are very different from traditional satellites, while you still get a lot of capabilities or very high capabilities out of these powerful machines.
Okay, great. And if I can come back to you, Guillermo, I mean, what kind of partners are you looking for? Because you talked a lot about, the risk that you could help minimize. You've talked a lot about sort of things in terms of environmentals. So are these are you looking to affiliate or build connections? Are these your kind of customers that you're looking for, or could it be anybody?
No, not anybody. Actually, we're looking for all these large organizations, worldwide organizations. For instance, we were performing a pilot test in Andorra in this small country, the Pyrenees, to basically develop all the algorithms to fire management detection. And afterwards, we are talking to the Canadian Forest Authority to translate all this knowledge from Andorra into a bigger use case in Canada, for instance, and also in Australia. So we're talking about big organizations, national organizations worldwide, but we're also talking with big companies, multinational companies, basically are companies who has the operational centers and all the management centers in Europe, and also they have fields worldwide, distributed, for instance, in Argentina, in Africa, in Asia, and all those places. So it's a way of making them to know what is happening on their fields and on their assets, from their computer, which is very, very comfortable and also cost effective. So those are our current partners and potential customers.
Okay, that's nice. So mainly big organizations. And we come right to the end, but if I could have one last question to you, Dan, keep the answer short. But what's the cost? You know, how do you cost the use of this, somebody getting in and being able to use your, a satellite, one of the satellites in your constellation? I mean, I know it probably sounds very strange, but I mean, is it like, it's costed per second per satellite, or what? How do you do that? Because, is it really multi-million pound organizations, or can it just be really, really small organizations that can come to you?
No, the beauty of the model that we have allows small organizations, startup companies, new companies that want to explore new markets to really access space at a price point which is drastically different from traditional space missions. I'm talking governmental missions or large missions from the past. So we're basically democratizing. It's a term that is used a lot, but we're making access to space easy, and what we want our customers to focus on is, well, we want them to focus on their products and their own customers, and leave it to us to bring them to space, and we can do it at price points which are the same as any other industrial sector. Yeah, it's no longer, space is no longer a domain that is only accessible to governments. It's now perfectly accessible to any company that wants to do business in this new industrial domain.
Lovely, and I think that's a great way to finish it. This new industrial domain of space. The opportunities there for people to use it, and I think a lovely picture of how useful that application is of space technology in terms of especially helping organizations like firefighters deal with that huge risk that we're facing every year. So thanks very much to Dan Isaac and to Guillermo Valenzuela for your input here. And let's rethink, just to give you a flavor, tomorrow we will be back and we will have more panel discussions. We're here in the morning and in the afternoon with concepts about how we are actually adapting certain telecommunication networks into helping, into working with space technology, and really looking at how it's adapted and looking at it from a sort of academic perspective as well. So please look at the timetable. We've got a whole selection of panel discussions in the morning, and in the afternoon we'll have a series of pitches where you will have the opportunity to see at least 6 new startups pitch their new space ideas here. And perhaps that's something that, Dan, you might be interested in returning to have a look at. You might want to give access to some of these startups to your constellation of satellites up there, of cute satellites. So thanks very much, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Bye-bye.